Okay, round two. We are back with this session about driving business differently. My name is Simone Vincenzi. I'm going to be your moderator for this session. And I'm really excited about what we are going to be talking about. Because sustainability now is at the core of every business. We cannot have a profitable and sustainable business for the future without putting sustainability in the mix. And so we are going to talk about generational businesses and also innovative startups that are putting sustainability, purpose, and positive impact at the core of what they are doing. Which starts with our first speaker of the day. And she is the CEO of Vaude. And it is an outdoor brand. And she has revolutionized and changed the trajectory of the entire brand that started from her family. And the outdoor industry, you might not know, is incredibly competitive. And she was able, with her team, to turn around their company, making it profitable and sustainable at the same time. So without further ado, the co-founder of Vaude, Antje von Dewitz. Please give a massive round of applause. Thank you. Yeah, come on!
Okay, I'm supposed to dance now? No. So hello from my side. Thanks a lot for having me here. Up till now, I can't see my presentation, but I'm guessing that, yes. No. Okay, but here we go. So thanks for having me here to talk about driving business differently. In my experience, it motivates the most if you see a lot of example how it works. So this is why I invite you today to join me on a journey to Vaude. Here you see my father. He founded our business 50 years ago in the south of Germany as a pure mountaineering brand. Today, we have about 130 million euro turnover per year. We have about 550 employees. And when I overtook the company, and now we're in the outdoor. Now it's the outdoor industry, the international outdoor industry, which Simon pointed out is a very competitive industry, so no niche. When I took over in 2009, I already had 4 children. And I had the strong and wild desire to really be able to one day look them in the eye and say, I really tried my best. So we put out the target in 2009 to become Europe's most sustainable company in the outdoor market. These are our products. We equip you with everything that you need to enjoy the outdoors, either on bike or on the mountain, with functional gear, clothing, backpacks, tents, sleeping bags, shoes. And one thing all of our products have in common, they're textiles. So we are also part of the global textile industry. And when I look at the industries, I think there are many different challenges out there, but my industry has a lot of them. So just think about animal welfare. If you have a down jacket, it's probably from live plucking downs, ugly. Environmental pollution. According to Greenpeace, there are 3,500 harmful substances in the global textile industry that pollute our rivers. Plastic waste. Third biggest cause of microplastic in the ocean is from textiles. The fibers break, pollute the oceans. And climate crisis. We're on place 10 with the global industry of textiles. Producing synthetic and natural fibers and make fabric out of them is very, very energy intensive. So when I look at these challenges and I think about sustainability, I don't think sustainability should be a voluntary concept. It should be something that you do because it's your corporate responsibility. You should do it because it's your damn duty to do business without harming man and nature. So these are the principles that we follow. We want to have the smallest possible footprint with everything that we do, and we want to create the greatest possible quality of life. And with these 2 principles, we started out in 2008, 1 year before I started. This is our headquarters in Germany, and we found out we have 2 big points where we have to start, our headquarters and the entire product lifecycle. I start with the headquarters. So in the beginning, we started to change these few but very notable things. We changed our coffee to fair trade coffee. We finally got a grip on separating our waste. And then, more importantly, we started to systematically report according to a management system every consumption, every emission that we have. And we looked at the big parts of that. And of course, we found out energy is a big part of our emissions because we also produce at our headquarters. We produce all the panniers there. So we changed to renewable energy. We put solar on all our roofs. And then we looked again and we said, okay, paper, of course paper, because our most important marketing tool was a catalog. So we canceled the catalog, changed to recycling paper for the rest. And the third biggest thing that we found out was the mobility of our employees, because everyone came with a car. And so we said, in the middle where you see here on the picture, where the climbing wall is, 10 years ago, there was parking space, 60 parking spaces. So we said, we want to cancel these parking spaces, and we want to create green mobility. So we got ourselves a lot of e-bikes to motivate our people to go on the bikes. We created showers for them everywhere to make them feel comfortable when they came. We gave the best parking spots for cars, not for our managers, but for people who came with shared rides. And step by step, we managed up till today that we drive around 80,000 kilometers instead of car per bike. Besides a lot of other big measures that we did. So in 2012, we decided we have reduced so much, let's compensate now. So since 2012, at the headquarters, we are climate neutral. But still, we went on and changed year by year things. In 2015, we decided food has such a big ecological footprint. So let's stop external catering. Let's start our own canteen with regional and freshly cooked organic food. And we found a great cook that overtook our canteen, and for himself, motivated by himself and motivated by the entire company spirit, he decided a few years later that the canteen should go one step further, and now we have a vegetarian vegan canteen, which was received quite skeptically in the company, even in the management team. But he was so motivated, so every day he puts a lot of effort to convince us with just delicious vegan food, and we're happy. So the canteen is the heart of the company. I think mostly influences the quality of life of our employees is having a good work-life balance. We put a lot of effort in create great working times, even also for the managers. We have work hours in trust. We have working from home pre-pandemic and after pandemic. We have a children care that you see there. We put a lot of effort to create a working space which is based on trust and which is caring. And I think the most important message is that with all these mobility, food, work-life balance, the most important thing is is also the impact, but also that our team feels that sustainability is not some theoretical concept, is not something that the management wants, but something that feels good, that is life quality, that is worth engaging for. Because when I now come to the supply chain, you see that we face challenges that were so big that we could not have done it without a team that was not so convinced that this is the best way to go and it's worth doing it. Because also in the supply chain, we applied our principles, smallest possible footprint, highest possible quality of life. We started out in 2009 by creating Green Shape as our own meta label. So Green Shape is based on the highest possible ecological and social standards that are out there in the industry. But 2009, when we were a company of 50 million turnover, nobody has asked for us. We were a rather small company in the outdoor textile industry, but still with a very complex supply chain. Also, we had 65 producers as partner. We had 150 material suppliers. And we went and asked them, so please, now for us, please change everything you do. They hadn't waited for us. In the textile, on the social side, we joined Fair Wear. Fair Wear is, in my opinion, the best standard that you can join to really do social standards in your supply chains. It's not a business standard. It's not business controls business. It's a multi-stakeholder approach. So NGOs and trade unions are in the board of the NGO and have really high standards that you have to follow. You have to audit every production site you're in. And it's a long process because you have to work on the problem step by step by step. And in the process, the first few years, we found out, okay, we have to leave some production sites. They are not moving. We cannot work together with them. But today, we've made it since a few years, 100% is certified and audited. And since 2015, we have the leader status of fairware, which makes me proud. On the ecological side, the problems were even higher. We asked our producer to please certify, standard, nominate, do everything, change everything, but we were the only one that asked for it. So our producers told us, oh no, you're so small, you have 2% of our turnover, we won't do this for you. Or they told us, okay, we do this for you, this blue sign certification. It costs 20,000 euro per year, you have to pay that. So it was really difficult. And even same difficulty was that in our team, there was a lot of frustration because we had to change every single material to a new standard. And we have to create new standards because for some materials there were no standards. So I just put a few of them on the board there. So our product team was very frustrated because it was so much more work, and it was so expensive. And at the same time, our sales team told us it should not cost anything more because the customer is not ready to pay more. So these were hard times, and it took us all of us to unite ourselves, to unite our forces to overcome these challenges. And we had the fear that we could not innovate anymore because it was so much work. But today, happily, we are over 90% green shape in our collection, and this sustainable drive has become our innovative driver. We make materials from old tires. We make panniers from bike panniers from plastic waste. We make fleece jackets from wood fiber so that it doesn't pollute the oceans. Every new material solution that we find is based on either recycled or bio-based new solutions, and it reduces the CO2 footprint by 50 or 60%. This all is part of our big climate commitment to the science-based targets. Until 2024, we want to change all the materials. And since you just heard the IPCC report, since times are really dark, our team had asked us a few years ago, please, can we do this time differently? Not reduce all the years and then compensate. Can we just please act immediately? So we are now on 2 feet. On the one foot, we reduce very drastically, very enormously, year by year. And on the other foot, we are climate neutral immediately because we took the money out of our marketing budget and said it's better invested in compensating. So we're climate neutral with all our products from this year on. And it makes me really proud that our own team asked for it, because now they have to live with less marketing money. Okay, it's good to use recycled materials, but it's at least as good or even better if the product lasts very long. So we do everything because 30 to 40% of a climate footprint is in the hands of the user. The longer he uses his product, the better it is. So we have in the design, we do everything that our products are repairable, and we have a big repairable manufacturing in our company. And also we have online repair videos and spare parts that you can order, so it's very easy to make products long-lasting. But even the longest lasting product one day is done. And then the best is it should be recycled and reborn as a new material. But the reality in the textile sector is that only 1% of all textiles out there is actually recycled up to this point. There is no infrastructure to recycle mixed materials. It's very complex and it's a long road to go. So I'm proud that now we finally moved again one step forward and created a new backpack that is mono-material, because all you know at this stage is it has to be mono-material, otherwise there's no chance to recycle. So with the help of 3D printing on the back, we have now a backpack totally out of monomaterial, and I'm proud to present the first step for recyclable backpacks. When I look back, that in the beginning, I thought, okay, this is like a big journey. We want to be the most sustainable outdoor company in Europe, and one day we will feel ourselves standing on a mountain, looking down and saying, yes, we made it, we have done it, we have achieved it. Now, it feels differently. I look back and I think, wow, I'm proud. We've done so much. It was really hard, and I'm glad to stand here. And I look ahead and I think, oh my God, there's so many challenges out there. And this is sustainability, honestly, is all about. You take one step and you find a new challenge. That was a new experience. The other new experience, or fresh experience in the beginning was, oh my God, it is so difficult to overtake responsibility holistically. It is so much easier to just avoid it. The entire economical system is just based on financial figures. It is not based on how well you perform to overtake your own corporate responsibility. Since I realized this, we have become very political. I, myself, and the entire brand. So we are part of the economy for the common goods. We do our common goods balance sheet. We side along Fridays for Future to fight for a better planet. And we partner up with politicians who fight for stricter rules in the economy to have a level playing field for all brands, for all companies. Because at the moment, the more you are engaged, the more you are disadvantaged, because you have so much more work, you have so much more costs, you have so much more effort. So that's why we're very politically now. So act now. If I look back, I see that up till now, it has been a very strenuous journey. As I just told you, it's so much work. We have fought so many internal fights. There are so many conflicting targets out there. It's amazing that we came so far. And we're so proud to be there. We're so proud that we've made it so far, and we're very successful economically. We are a very trusted brand. We win more customers because more and more customers become consciously about their buying decisions. They feel it's a political decision in which world you will live in. So we're proud on that. We're very proud. I'm so very proud that even we made an impact in Asia with very skeptical producers, that they now feel the spirit and do steps by themselves. So we're proud on that. And what satisfies me the most, day by day, is the way we work together. It is so much joy to work together in this company as a team. It's so rewarding to see that you really make a difference. It's so rewarding to work as a team and see you're doing an impact, even though you're just a small, family-owned business. It feels like a drop in the water, and it's doing circles. And I think this is, I think we often heard this message before, but we have dark times. We are just 3 steps ahead of an abyss, and we are already looking in it. We have to fear for the future of our children. It's really awful. So we need everybody on board. And sometimes this feels like, okay, we have to, this is joyless, it's going to be so awful because it's going to be so restricted. And the good message is, and this is what I feel every day, it gives you back so much more. It's life quality that we create. And acting in these dark times really strengthens you from the inner side. So feel the strength. I know that you're all on the good path. I know that this is something that we all join together. So it's good to be here, and it's good to be inspired by each other. Have a wonderful conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, Antje von Dewitz, thank you very much. I'm taking away a few things from this opening conversation and his opening talk around driving business differently. Number one is there is a lot to do, and we all know that. But also, there are some incredible companies and incredible realities like Vaude that dedicated the past 10, 15, 20 years to create this change and to make that possible. And like that drop of water, like she mentioned, then we can all do our part with our smaller companies, with our bigger companies, with the roles that we have. So give her another round of applause. Thank you very much. And now it's time to move to the next session, where we are going to talk about the role of purpose and disruptive technology companies as well that are making a difference. So please come on stage. I'm going to be joined by Kroll, co-founder of Ecosia, and Sudhanshu Sarronwala from Infarm. Give them a hand, please. Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
So let's start with Sudhanshu from Infarm.
Oh.
You are Chief Operating Officer of Infarm, which is the world's fastest growing urban farming network. And you're harvesting and distributing more than 1.5 million plants each month across your network. Now, you talked about purpose, and I know purpose is really important for you. But purpose can become actually a cliche word. Everyone is talking about purpose.
Yes.
But how do you make purpose happen? And how do you make it purpose alive in a company?
Okay. Thank you, Simone. Well, firstly, I'm the Chief Impact Officer. I'm not yet the Chief Operating Officer.
Chief Impact Officer.
Just to be clear. In terms of purpose, no, that's a really important question because it's not a, it shouldn't be a fad. It's not a narrative. It is actually fundamental in terms of how it is built into your business model. It's really the raison d'etre for your business. What is your business actually doing with respect to the environment and to society? And that's really how it gets built in. And that's really what attracted me to Infarm, honestly, is that there was purpose built into the very model as to how are you going to impact the environment, how are you going to impact society. But at the same time, you're not shying away from profits. So it really was the triple bottom line of people, profits, and planet coming together in what I think is really going to be a powerful shift in the way business is done.
Yeah, as you mentioned, purpose becomes the core of every decision that then is made for the company and also moving forward. Now, I want to check with Christian now, because you're the co-founder of Ecosia, which is an alternative search engine. For the profits that you generate from search, you're actually planting trees. And I've seen that there's been more than like 150 million trees. I was checking this morning on Ecosia's website, more than 150 million trees have been planted from the work. And you talked about, in the conversation that we had before, about purpose economy, still talking about purpose. What is a purpose economy?
Yeah, I think this is maybe the beginning of a post-capitalistic world. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but I really feel that way. So they're actually, if you look at companies, one of the biggest questions is, if you're evaluating those companies, is who owns those companies? Like we saw with Vaude, for example, it's a family-run business. Many other companies are typically listed on the stock market, so they are owned by a lot of shareholders. And often you can draw, from this insight, you can draw the conclusion, what is the real purpose of that company? So a publicly traded company, its real purpose is to generate money for its shareholders. And that's what I studied business, so that's what I learned at university, that this is typically the purpose of a company. But like we've seen with Vaude previously, that companies also can have very different reasons for being. And it could be, for example, to solve the destruction of our planet. The problem is, if those two things, let's say a company wants to solve destruction of our planet, but also has to make a lot of profit, then it might be that the shareholders just overrule maybe what the employees want to do. So the thing that we're trying to do differently at Ecosia is we actually say we don't want external people to be owners of the company. Why can't the company itself be the owner of itself? So that's what we initially thought. So when I started Ecosia as a company, I made the promise that the company will never be sold, that we will never take any profits out of the company, and that nobody ever can basically buy or take over Ecosia as a company. So this independence was very important for me, because I believe that this is necessary so that a company can actually really fulfill its purpose and doesn't get distracted by paying back investors or paying money to shareholders. So, and it turned out that there are quite a few other companies or people who had the same idea. And gradually now there are a lot of companies in Germany who are doing the same. And this is what we call the purpose movement. So we call those companies steward-owned companies. So they basically only belong to themselves, and there are no shareholders who are putting pressure on those companies. And that means that also there's a lot of profit still within the company that can be used for doing good. Like in our case, planting 150 million trees.
Did anyone tell you when you wanted to implement this model, are you crazy? Is it ever going to work?
Yeah, that's because, as I said, I studied business, and I think the common belief is that you start a startup because you want to be a millionaire and then sell the company at some point and be super rich and buy a fancy house and fancy cars. And I never felt that. Like that was never motivating for me. Of course, I want to have basic security. I don't want to starve when I get old. But like beyond just that basic security, I don't need more money. And that's why I was able to make that decision. But many of my startup friends and also like the literature, business literature said, this can't work. You will lose all your motivation.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. Like this was 5 years ago now. And I'm still there and I'm still fully motivated.
And you're here talking about it and being an advocate for this different model, for this alternative model of running a company. And now, what I'm finding fascinating in this panel is that we are exploring how purpose is implemented in different ways. And during a conversation that we had, you mentioned as well the sustainability teams. And that's one of the ways in which you practically implemented purpose in Infarm. What are sustainability teams and how do they work?
So I think we heard some of it in the previous presentation from Vaude as well. Just how do you actually make sure that this is embedded into the DNA of the organization? It's not something that a little sustainability team of 3 people are out there doing their own agenda. It's really about baking it into the company. How does everybody understand purpose and execute against it, as I'm quite sure it is in Christian's amazing outfit. So what we do is that we create multifunctional teams from different departments who actually understand and need to understand how it's implemented, because I don't actually implement all of the sustainability thing. It needs to happen within the supply chain. It needs to happen within the people department. It needs to happen within operations, within packaging, within, so all of the areas that any business has. So bringing that team together and making them responsible so that they volunteer to be responsible. I can't force it on them, but that's the difference between it being something like command and control and being purpose-driven. Because I'm constantly pushing against an open door. Everybody carries the same vision of purpose, so they are very happy to work with that and to understand how can we help them take it further. What is the analysis we can bring to the table? So that's really what sustainability teams are about. And when they start reporting sustainability metrics without being asked for it, that's when you know
that it's working.
Milestone.
That's your milestone. Can you give me also an example? Because I'm curious to hear an example of the work that one of the sustainability teams has done or is doing at the moment.
Right. So I'll take an example of energy. We work with, there's land, water, miles, etc. But let's take energy because it's topical. We were listening to the IPCC just now. So when we talk about energy, which is always a big question in vertical farming because of the LED lighting that is used, is how does that actually flow across the supply chain and across all the different departments? So you then break down energy from R&D in terms of how it's going into the lighting, how are plants actually absorbing it. So that becomes their responsibility to track and to actually hit a mark. Then you're talking about facilities when we're actually renting new facilities, warehouses. How do we actually rent those which either have the ability to do solar panels or have access to green or low carbon energy? And then the procurement teams in terms of actually negotiating that. So you can see that there are multiple places where energy can get impacted, and it's our role to try and orchestrate that, but to make sure that all of the different elements know that, yes, we need to reduce the carbon footprint. We need to reduce energy usage, and therefore we work towards that, and so does every department.
And thinking about sustainability teams, I think you can all agree with me that every company should have one. They can keep all the other teams accountable and making decisions that are good for the planet, which is why we are here. Christian, you built Ecosia without venture capital. And building a new search engine, building companies without venture capital, it is a very different A lot of people are looking for that money to get started because technology costs, people cost money, like you want to pay, and you want to make the company sustainable. What are the cons and also the pros that of running a company or creating a company without venture capital that also led you to make this decision?
Yeah. So I think this was. So I was not again. I'm not against venture capital. I think it has a function to play. But for me, it was very important that we have this independence at Ecosia. So I never wanted to be forced by potential shareholders or investors to do something that I think isn't right. And that holds true for all Ecosia employees as well. We want to do what we think is really best for the planet and the climate and the people. And we have that freedom now because we are a self-owned company. So we can do whatever we want, basically. But the path there wasn't necessarily easy. So for the first few years, I basically didn't pay myself a salary. Like a lot of people who were helping to build up Ecosia, they basically almost did that for free or very low salary in the early days. Basically, everybody who couldn't run away fast enough had to help out of my own friends and network. Yeah. So it was more difficult to build this up, and also. Back then, so Ecosia is almost 13 years old now. So back then, climate change wasn't so much of a topic. So it was a struggle, but I'm still, I think, like after seeing what we've accomplished, I'm very happy that we went that path. Because I also saw a lot of companies who had kind of good motives in the beginning, but then gradually the investors were taking over, and they were forcing them to make decisions. Like I know a few founders who basically said, the day I raised venture capital, I lost control of my company, and that I never wanted to happen. And because of this independence, we can make decisions that other companies just wouldn't do. Like there are a lot of big companies who say that they have targets to be 100% renewable energy powered at some point in the future. Like we have much more ambitious target. We already now generate more than 300% of the electricity that we're using ourselves. And if all the big tech companies would be doing that as well, I mean, we would solve the energy transition in no time, especially like Google, Apple, and so on. They could all be doing that, but they're not doing it because their investors tell them, please, I want my dividends. So I think that's clearly an advantage that as a company you can really do what you believe in. The disadvantage is that it might be a bit more difficult to, like, especially if you have a high risk, very capital intense company that you want to start, it might be a bit more difficult to convince investors, but actually now this is also becoming better because the model that we have, it actually allows for investments as well. It's just the investors don't have the same control over the companies, and more investors are actually conscious that this is now an option. So this whole movement that we're starting basically is also getting more and more investable, and there are even investment funds that are only investing in those types of companies now.
Yeah, that's what I want everyone to think about. Say, what model does work for me, for what I believe in, for my core, for my purpose, going back to purpose. What I'm curious, before we move to the topic of sustainability, still linked to purpose, how do you make decisions within your company? Because you told a lot about decision making. We make decisions differently. We're not accountable to our shareholders. How do you make decisions within Ecosia?
I mean, our goal is basically to fix climate change or prevent a climate catastrophe, I could say. And we do whatever has the best impact towards that direction. And that, I think ideas can come from everywhere. We have a management team that is kind of trying to coordinate this a little bit. But what I think is very, very different at Ecosia, that everybody really cares about our mission. And that also means that if we would do something that is not in line with that, then people would be very, very vocal about this. So whenever we think that we could be doing something better or there needs to be something a little bit more transparent, then this is usually also like coming from the people themselves. And that leads to things like, in terms of transparency, for example, every month we publish our financial reports on our website. So everybody can see how much money we earned, how exactly we spent the money, how much money we gave to our tree planting organizations. So that is super transparent. And that is also we not only feel that responsibility towards our employees, who of course also have access to all that information, but also to our users, like millions of users who basically support us as well. they deserve to have all those insights as well. So I think we're much more transparent and open than a typical company.
And that's what people are looking for. They're looking for transparency. So. They want to use companies, invest in companies, buy products from companies that are transparent. Now, I want to move to the topic of sustainability, though, because sustainability is a double-edged sword. It can be sustainable on one side and then break another part of the planet, but we are sustainable over here, though. And you mentioned a topic about the holistic sustainability.
Right.
What does holistic sustainability mean, and how can that be applied?
So I think there are several standards. There are some which are best in class, in my view. I know that Ecosia is B Corp certified, for example, which I'm a big fan of, and we're moving towards B Corp certification. Basically, how can business be a force for good? And it takes a very holistic view on everything related to environment, transparency, community, and social and community issues. There's just one thing that I would add to this, sort of related to what Christian was talking about, is that it's important for us that if we are trying to work in a legacy industry like food, and we are bringing new technologies in, and to bring it in with the element of sustainability is how do you move the industry along with the same sustainability credentials? And that's where we are working a lot with other people who are competitors in one sense, but in a pre-competitive sense, we want everybody to adopt the same holistic sustainability standards. We're working with the agri-tech industry so that they are also, and we are part of that, moving with the same sustainability standards. So it's holistic sustainability, not just within our company that we are talking about. We're talking about holistic sustainability at an industry level, because otherwise, while one company can do good, you're not going to change the system, and especially if you're dealing with something like the food systems that we're working on.
Yeah. I think that goes back to what Antje was saying earlier about changing the entire supply chain.
Right.
What are the biggest challenges that you have faced in implementing this concept? Because one thing is easy to say, oh yeah, let's change everything. We made everything sustainable, yeah, win. Then you have people that say, no, or we can't.
Sure.
What has been the biggest challenge you have faced?
Well, I think that there's, you are always going to have as you balance out people, planet, and profits, there are decisions that are going to be made internally. You can have a common, belief that you are working with a purpose of impacting land and water positively, and everybody in the company buys into that. But at the same time, there is a decision to be made on execution. There are retailers that you work with. So there are externalities that come into place. And to balance that out, but not lose sight of the lens that you're using of purpose. If you lose your purpose, you no longer have one. And that's the big difference in staying the course or not staying the course.
Mm. And that's what a lot of companies, unfortunately, they have to face, which then gets them to lose their purpose. So they start with a great core. This is what we are going to do. This is what we want to achieve. And then challenge after challenge after challenge happens, and you find a company adopting different models. I know you're a big believer in sustainability, and in particular around replacing nature with nature. And I remember that you have also quite a strong view around the use of technology. So that's what I want to have this conversation, because now we have a technology company.
So is he.
And it's a technology. So what is your view about replacing nature with nature?
Yeah, I think, if we want to prevent a climate catastrophe, we have to use all the means available. And the problem that I see in a lot of sustainability discussions, I think, are two problems. First of all, I think it's driven a lot by the current understanding or the current way of how we're doing things. And especially if you look at who is most active in this sector, it's often very, very technology-focused companies or people. So especially the tech billionaires, they have a lot of voice in the sector. They spend a lot of money. They get a lot of attention as well. And they have their specific lens on the problem. They, to a large extent, believe that we just need to build a bigger machine that can solve this problem for us. And I don't believe that this is true. So of course we need research, especially in renewable energy. There is like we need more innovation there, or battery storage, for example. But this is just a small piece of what we actually need to solve the climate crisis. If you look at the numbers, then the tech-driven solutions that we have are maybe just 50% of the solutions that we can do. A lot of the other solutions that we have are actually nature-based. So the big question is how we use land, how we produce food. Those two questions alone are so big that yeah, we should really put more attention on those. And some of those can be supported by technology, but often it's just we humans need to learn that we are part of an ecosystem and that we can't keep destroying this ecosystem. We have to start repairing this ecosystem. So in agriculture, for example, the question how we produce food currently is causing a lot of CO2 emissions, but it could actually be, if we do this right, if we use regenerative agriculture, it could have a massively positive impact on removing CO2 from the atmosphere by building soil, making our planet more healthy. And so this area alone has so much potential that it's actually, I think, 10 times bigger than electric cars. But there's an entire booth or an entire stage just for electric cars. So this is getting so much attention, but the nature part, I don't know if there's even a nature area at this conference. I haven't managed to visit everything. But the nature part really usually gets less attention, and there's no marketing department for trees, maybe except for Ecosia, we're the marketing department for trees. But that's a little bit of a problem. There's a big marketing department for electric cars. And again, I'm not saying that we don't need technology. We are also a technology company, but we should really look at nature. And then I think when you look at nature, you realize, hey, you can't just be, it's not only possible to be sustainable, but you can actually do much more. You can really have a positive impact. You can really start repairing the damage that has been done. So actually, we don't like the word sustainability so much. We rather use the word regeneration, because then you don't have to stop at being just neutral. You can actually go way beyond. And I mean, we are much more than carbon neutral. We've taken millions of tons of CO2 out of the atmosphere. And also in terms of energy production, we are not just 100% renewable, we are 300% renewable. So remove this artificial limit of 100% or zero footprint and go way beyond. That would be my recommendation. And really don't forget about nature. Because if you invest massively into repairing nature, then you actually also fix a lot of other problems. Poverty, the food crisis, water crisis, all that can be done if you put the money into the right places.
And I can talk to you guys for hours, but it's time to wrap up. What I loved about this conversation is exploring different models that has one common theme, which is purpose. And that's how purpose is applied in different sectors, in different themes, in different decision making. So Christian, Sudhanshu, thank you very much. Give them a massive round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks. Now, we're going to move to another part of the conversation, because so far we have explored disruptive startups, we have explored the role of purpose, and in particular when you start a new company, it's easy to set the direction from the start. But what happens when actually you have an entire group that needs to change direction, or that wants to change direction, that is very established? It's not that easy. It's easier to be said than done. And that's what we are going to talk about with our next speaker, which is the CEO of the Mobilize brand, part of the Renault group, and also she's the board of directors, she's chairman of the board of directors of RCI Bank. Please welcome Clotilde Delbos. Clotilde, thank you very much for being here. Save the microphone. Good reflexes there. Thank you very much for being here. First of all, Mobilize. Let's talk about it. It's a new brand of the Renault Group. What is it, and in particular, why was it born?
Well, it's true. It's brand new. Actually, it was born a little more than a year ago. It's the fourth brand of the Renault Group. Everybody knows the Renault brand, the Dacia brand, and Alpine. And for the first time in 120 years, Renault decided to create a new brand, and it's Mobilize. So why creating it? It's because there is a big transformation in the auto industry. And we have felt with Luca De Meo, who's the CEO of Renault, that we needed a brand to represent that. So what are those challenges? Actually, we all know that when you buy a car, you pay 100, and at the end of the day, you use it like, what, 10% of the time? When you buy a car, after 3 years, it's worth 50%. And we all know that the current auto industry and transport industry is responsible for 15% of the CO2 emission of the planet, at least in Europe. So we wanted to look at mobility differently. What if we don't sell car? You know, a car company, usually its purpose is to sell car, right? Yeah. But for Mobilize, it's not the case. We want to sell services. So we do see ourselves within the Renault Group as some kind of a militant and activist brand where we completely want to change the paradigms of the auto industry.
Which is a big shift from selling cars to selling services.
Yeah.
So what is the entire philosophy of Mobilize and how does it align with where the Renault Group then wants to go?
Yeah, so as I said, we don't want to sell car. We want to sell services. That means that everything we do is completely different than what the Renault Group does. When the Renault Group wants to put a car on the market, he thinks about the car, mostly. What can it do, et cetera, et cetera. When we do start, we think about the service, the customer journey. And then after that, we think about what a car could be designed for that specific usage. And we design the car completely differently, really thinking about what it can provide. What we want is to have cars or mobility journey which are greener. All our cars are going to be electric, which are mostly shared, and which don't have such an imprint on the footprint, even the physical footprint. So we really think about what service do I want to provide to the customers or the users, and then we design the car. And to do that, we have a business model which is called vehicle as a service, i.e. we have specific cars, purpose design, we have a platform, a tech platform in order to build all the services. And what we offer to the customers are financial services, insurance services, energy services, all the cars are electric, maintenance, everything, because our cars, we want them to be at least made 50% of recycled material and 95% recyclable, including the battery. So in order to do so, and then we want to have them very, very intensive usage in order to use the material to the maximum. And at the end of life, we want to recycle.
So if I want to use Mobilize and be part of it, what do I do? What can I expect? What's my journey?
Well, you have different ways of using Mobilize, because Mobilize is not only the car, but we also have, as you mentioned, the bank, which has been renamed Mobilize Financial Services a week ago. So if you are retail users and you still want to have a dedicated car, we offer you access to EV by offering you some specific financial schemes where you don't have to have down payment, it's a monthly fee, you don't have to bother about reselling the car because you don't own the car, we keep it. If you're a small fleet, it's the same thing. But if you're a mobility user, i.e. you want to use car sharing, you want to hail the taxi in the street, then we do provide these dedicated cars to these companies. And same thing, we don't sell them the car, we keep the car, we just bundle a whole bunch of services so that they can offer the best service to you as a mobility user with whatever car you have in the street. And the way we design the car, the way we design the service bundle, we enable the mobility operator to reduce their total cost of usage by between 10 and 35%, so that they can become profitable, which is not always the case today, with an offer which is clearly adapted to the needs of the people.
I know that to change direction and change trajectory, team is a big part of it. Companies are built by teams, by people. People are the core of everything. And there is a fundamental shift in mindset. There is a fundamental shift in what people see the automotive industry being. What has been the biggest challenges you have faced to actually find the right people and making sure that the right people have hold this vision?
Well, it's complicated, you're right, because when you do something totally different in a 120-year-old group, which has been doing the same thing roughly, even the cars are different, but the same thing for a long time, which is worldwide, a big weight, not always very agile like a startup could be. How do you do that? It's kind of complicated, and we're not at the end of it yet. First, we inherited some activities that were already in the group. As I mentioned, we had the bank, which is okay because the bank is also 100 years old, but it's more smaller. It's only 4,000 people, so it's not as big as the rest of the group. And it's already a different mindset because the mindset of the bank is to offer a service, not a product, a service. Then we had various activities within the group which are a little scattered everywhere, either the one working on energy services or a few ventures that we had acquired a few years ago. So we put all of them together, and we also started to find for additional type of profile on the market. In an automotive group, what is the most important is the R&D that you put in the car. In a branch like us, what is the most important is the platform. Yes, we do have some cars, but what is the most important is the tech platform.
The technology that sits
the technology.
Yeah.
So when you have auto engineer on one side, for us what is the most important is more software engineers. And the good thing is that with the ventures that we already have, let's say, 400 software engineers available in order to design the services that we will plug on the car. So now what we need to do is to make all this population work together, having the same purpose, the same mindset. And I was listening to your interviewees just before.
Sudhanshu and Christian.
Exactly. And it's very interesting because that's what we're trying to do. But the challenge is, at the same time, you're embedded in a big group, which has processes, lengthy process decision, and you're in some time of a startup which want to go fast. And it's difficult to make, the length of the process decision in a group like Renault. When you build a car, you take 3 years or 4 years to design it, and it has to be in the street for 10 years. When you build a service, you have to adapt it to the needs of the day. So that's how we're trying to change the mindset.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because I'm really curious about how do you manage and balance that when you have a group which is a strong group, which is already in a very strong direction, which now with a new brand, a new business that wants to move fast, and another business where decision they can take years to be made.
No, maybe not years, but at least
months.
months. Months, yeah.
Okay. So how do you balance both?
Well, the good thing is first we have the full support of the CEO, Luca De Meo, because it's something that he really has at its heart. And I'm helping also, obviously, on my colleague on the executive committee are trying to help. We're trying to move the company. It's not easy. We're trying to create new processes that give us more autonomy in order to decide what we need to decide. But the good thing is that it's true that at the beginning, the group was like, what the hell are they doing? We're here to sell cars, and they don't even want to sell cars. So they were looking at us like strange animals and saying, what are they doing in the group? And when comes a decision to allocate resources, R&D and CapEx, between a car and us, people are like, well, a car is safer. They don't exactly know what the outcome is going to be. But now it is changing because we showed them, especially a few weeks ago when we unveiled through a capital market day what Mobilize, what exact business model it was. Now the spirit is changing. And we have a lot of support in the group. And actually, we're attracting a lot of young talent from the group who thinks that the Mobilize story is a lot more dynamic, it's a lot more about the future, about the transformation of the Renault Group. And as a matter of fact, the mandate we have is to generate 20% of the Renault Group turnover by 2030, which is huge, which means that really we think that we're going to be the actor of the transformation of the Renault Group into a tech company versus an auto company. So it does bring a lot of appetite now within the group, and it also has a lot of power of attraction externally to the group. And we've been able to attract great talent from different areas, startups and other tech companies, which are now coming to Mobilize and shifting completely the mindset. And it's funny because it gives some envy to the rest of the Renault Group who says, wow, it's a lot funnier in Mobilize than it is complicated in a group which is facing so many challenges through, economic crisis, regulation. The life of an auto business is not fun every day. Whereas in Mobilize, we're creating tomorrow, and it's great.
And talking about creating tomorrow and having such an aggressive target.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about the speed, about how things needs to be moved and the pace. And there is a philosophy that can be, or from people that want to start business and company to wait for the perfect moment or wait for the perfect product. How do you embody actually this moving fast and moving forward within Mobilize? Can you give an example of that?
It's a very good question, and that's where we see still in Mobilize the difference in speed between the people coming from the ventures and the people coming from the Renault group. In an automotive group, as I said, it takes you 3 or 4 years to build a car, and you don't have any choice but it to be perfect. You're playing with the life of people, right?
Yeah.
So you cannot take any risk about what is going to be the quality of your product, because again, you're playing with the life of them, and so it has to be very good quality. You cannot put anything on the market which has not been homologated through the various regulated body. It takes a lot of time. So the way you think is different. Whereas on our side, we want to go fast. And we can do it because aside from the car itself, which is going to be done with the exact same quality as the rest, all the services we can test and learn. We can do that on some very small partners that can test the service, making sure it works. We can do that with various places of the world. We don't have to go through that. So first, we can go faster, which is the first point. Now, in order to go faster, we need to push the people and say, yes, you can make failure. Yes, it can be wrong if the service doesn't work, start another one, adjust it, test it again, and then it can go. The car is going to be with the same type of, unfortunately, length, but all the services that we're building on the platform, we can do differently.
And when you are in a startup environment, and in particular moving at such a speed, it's easy to come up with a lot of great ideas.
Yeah.
They're all great, they all need to be implemented, and they all need to be implemented now. And it's also easy to fall into the trap of having like a lot of half-done projects. Oh, we have a bit of this and a bit of that. How do you manage the prioritization of what takes priority in terms of working on and making sure that actually it gets completed and done?
It's a good point. So we have built a process in order to sort out the ideas. When we started Mobilize, we had like 120 ideas, and we knew it was not going to work. Yeah. So we have a funnel where we test and try to go down on what can be the impact, but also, sorry, it's not like the interviewee before, we have to make money at the end of the day, because we're in a group, and the resources are scarce. We don't have any venture capital. We have normal shareholder, and there is no big allowance to, you lose a lot of money before you earn some money. Yeah. So we are trying to focus on what can be implemented fast and what can generate benefit to our users and hence generate money. Because we strongly believe that it's because we bring benefit to the users and the mobility operators that we're going to be able to make money. The good thing is that as we have the startups, they show the example. For example, we acquired a startup on subscription a year ago. They decided to go and open a new country. They did it in 2 months. In a group like Renault, it would have taken quite a few more months, if not years, to implement just a new country with the heaviness of it. As we have the startup pushing and pulling, actually, that helps us go the way we want to go. And the good thing also is that as it is bundled as a full set of services, we start to see that every type of new service we try to build is using different pieces of Mobilize, and the traction is going from that. Because as you have the one, pulling really the speed, it's pulling the rest of the entity.
I'm now thinking about other large companies, like the Renault Group, that decided to make this move. And maybe there are a lot of large companies that they want to make more sustainable choices. For various reasons, they find it very, very difficult. What piece of advice would you have for them based on the experience that you had both with the Renault Group and Mobilize?
Well, I think if you really want to change the mindset, you have to change the organization to start with. And building a brand where people have a jersey with a specific color, for us it's the orange, and you start to have a sentiment of ownership, of being able to do something, rather than being lost in the complexity of a group like Renault, which is very a matrix group, you know, with region, brands and everything. So it's kind of heavy to put the interface. When you put a small group together with a very simple purpose, the big support of the CEO, which is extremely important to have the CEO endorsing this transformation, even pushing for it to go faster, then it's a lot faster. And that's why Luca De Meo, when he arrives, he organized the group in brands and not anymore in region where everything was bundled, so that everybody has a color on the jersey and they know which game to play. So you need to make very clear, if you want to transform a group, what are the rules? What is your mission? What do you want to have as an impact? And put the people all together in some type of autonomy so that they can really show the rest of the group that we can do things differently. I think that's the most important thing.
And you mentioned that the support from the CEO, that is crucial for the success of the organization, in particular for the future projects. Is there any chance to change things when you are in a working environment when you don't have the support of the CEO?
It's a lot more difficult. To be honest, it's a lot more difficult because, again, as you're shifting completely the paradigm, you don't want to sell car, what people have been doing for 120 years. You want to sell the services, meaning you keep the ownership of the car. People have the feeling that you're going to cannibalize what they used to do, that you're disrespecting the history of the company, which is not the case. So if you don't have a full support from a CEO, which is a firm believer, who actually was the one putting the idea on the table, saying, hey guys, if we don't disrupt ourselves, somebody else is going to do it, and then we're going to have nothing that we can propose to the users, it's very difficult because you're using the resources which are scarce in a group like Renault, you're using time, and you're kind of showing that what the other, you're not vigilant, you could show that what the rest of the group is doing is not as respective to the planet as what you want to do, which is not exactly the case. Luca unveiled a concept this morning which is extremely ESG oriented, but this is the danger. So if you don't have the support of the CEO, people are going to say, okay, play a little, and then you will see that you won't be successful. If you want the success, you need this support.
Yeah, because that's what I found sometimes in the large organizations. They have this situation where they will work on internal projects, but they are more done to check a box. And they are treated in that way. And that's also why they don't make a difference and they don't end up having the impact that then Mobilize is going to have. Talking about products and services that Mobilize is going to launch in the next few years, what can we expect? What can we expect to see?
Oh, wow, quite a lot of things.
Of course, what you can disclose.
No, that's okay. We did, as I said, we did a capital market day 10 days ago, so it's on the day, it's public. We're launching this summer, for example. Well, first, we already have some elements. We have a joint venture called GTeX in France, in Paris. It's Madrid, Paris, Lyon, and soon Milano, where it's car sharing, usual car sharing, but only full electric with some Zoe and Springs. This summer, we're launching what we call a Mobilize driver solution. This is a way to offer a taxi driver or a ride-hailing driver a way to turn to electric with a car called Limo, but they don't have to buy the car again because everybody knows that buying an electric car is not cheap, right? Yeah. So we're bundling that, and we're offering either to the taxi driver or to the taxi companies a way to have access to electric mobility with a package, again, including financing, insurance, energy solutions, maintenance with a specific fast lane in the dealers for repairing their cars so that they're not stuck with a car that doesn't work. If it may happen that it doesn't work, we never know. We're also launching a lot of energy solutions, notably with Megan E-Tech from Renault, where we're providing a charge pass so that people can easily have access to charging solution. We're also offering them a service where they can install at their home or at work a charging station so that they can also easily charge. And next year, in 2023, we will launch a very small car called Duo, which is a quadricycle in tandem for car sharing, which is going to help, again, mobility operator to drastically reduce their total cost of usage, which means that people in the street are going to be able to access a car which is very small, very tiny, to go wherever they want, full electric, 50% recycled material, 95% recycled. So we strongly believe that this is a good thing to allow people to be able to be mobile. Because at the end of the day, mobility, even though it's somehow also accused of many things, do provide you access to work. It provides you access to do whatever you want. It gives you freedom.
It does. Well, Clotilde, thank you very much for being here with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Clotilde Delbos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. We went on a journey of driving business differently from a family-owned business, then to technology company and disrupting services, and then now with the transformation on the Renault Group. Thank you very much. My name is Simone Vincenzi. I will see you at the next session. Have a great rest of the day. Ciao.